I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and it's time to get wealthy. You are finally going to learn what you need to do to take control of your finances and achieve the level of financial success you desire and deserve. The question I have for you today is, why is the wealth gap so wide? With the stock market soaring over the last decade, it's left so many Black folks behind. That is the reason that African Americans have 1/10 the net worth of our white counterparts. And in addition to that, 65% of households headed by African American women don't own a single share of stock. Well, today we're going to have a conversation with someone who decided to take ownership and change that. But here's what I want you all to understand. Here are the three things that they don't want you to know about what it will take to close your own personal wealth gap. First is that the knowledge of how to build wealth and invest is inherited. And so don't feel bad if you didn't learn it in your formal education. Secondly, in order for you to get financial advice, you have to be considered high net worth. And so if you don't come into a financial institution with hundreds of thousands of dollars, you simply don't receive investment advice. And then finally, what I want you to understand is so many of you go into these institutions and you're given a questionnaire, you fill it out, and that decides or determines what investments you go into. Many times they're called target date funds, and many of those funds underperform. And so today we're going to have a conversation with a woman who decided that she was going to take ownership of her financial success. And I'm so excited to talk with our guest today, Leia Armstrong. Leia, welcome to Get Wealthy.
Hi, Miss Deborah. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure being here.
Well, why I'm excited to have this conversation is because when we met, you were going through a challenge and you kind of changed your mindset and it really impacted you. But before we get into our conversation, first I want to kind of allow you to just share a little about yourself and why you decided that you needed to change and take ownership of your finances.
Sure. Well, I'm Leia Armstrong. I'm a daughter of East Oakland, California. I grew up in the deep, as the kids call it out there. Howard University graduate. Have had a pretty successful career for about 30 years in the consumer goods industry. Have been blessed with good positions, good pay. But it wasn't until probably in the last couple of years that I really um, invested in myself to get knowledge about what I should be doing with that money and how to productively use it. And so there was a lot of forgiveness that I had to give of myself of wasting time and money and just picking myself up and going forward once I connected with Wealthy Youth Society.
Well, I love the way you frame that because I remember, Leah, a conversation that we had, and you had joined the Financial Makeover Challenge, and I interviewed you about your experience. And one of the things about that conversation is that your change all began with taking on the concept of mindset, strategy, and execution. And so I want to begin there with you. Prior to your kind of financial makeover, if you will, talk to us a little bit about like the mindset that you had prior to making this change. Where did those beliefs come from that prevented you from really focusing on leveling up your finances, in the time that you've been in your professional career?
Sure. I think the bulk of it, and this is not an accusation to my parents, they were great. But like so many in our community, we grow up with this bad relationship with debt. And what I mean by that is um, instead of using debt in the way that it was is intended to be used, we would float balances from month to month, really think about large uh, purchases in terms of monthly payment instead of the real financial hit. So I went through many years of being comfortable with, okay, it's just only that per month. And then around the age of 35, I've changed that mindset. But what I did not do is change my mindset about carrying balances. So I would still carry balances exceeding the payment, but not really using debt still. That's the mindset that I grew up witnessing my parents do. And again, my parents were very hardworking. They both are retired from the Postal Service, sacrificed to send me to private school from kindergarten through 12th grade. And so a lot of that debt that they carried was because of the sacrifice they were making to send me to private school in California with the high cost of living. So I'm not pointing fingers at my parents. They did what they had to do, and they clearly prioritized my education over other things. But in watching them do that, I embodied the wrong idea of how debt should be used. And it took me decades to get out of that. Um, when I came to Wealthy You, I had started following you when you were on Roland Martin's show on TV1 years ago. I used to DVR that show religiously and would look forward to seeing it at the end of the day after work. And you would do segments on there. So I had an awareness of you. And when that show ended, I joined your email list, and I would receive your emails. I knew it was something that I wanted to act on. The impetus was really losing my fiancé in the beginning of the pandemic. He died unexpectedly, very healthy, no underlying conditions, but COVID took him out, right? And so I was faced with needing to replan my life. And I knew that, at the age that I was, it needed to involve some serious catching up from a financial standpoint. So the first thing I did was sign up for your master class. It was a Black Girl Magic master class. I'll never forget. It was July 2020. And there I am grieving, but I decided to put that energy from grieving into making a change for the better. And I had decided that, in honoring his memory, he was always about enjoying life and making good decisions about the future. And so somehow I had to get the knowledge that I needed to carry forward and to plan my life. That Black Girl Magic conference, it was magical for me in that the knowledge of the speakers, the camaraderie amongst the audience, the wisdom that you were dropping in between the segments, it just was like, I gotta have this. And so I joined Wealthy You that same day and just really dove in. That's something that I remember you would always say is just dive in, just plunge, just take the plunge. So I dove in. About a month later, the challenge came up, and your challenges are open to everyone. And so I was like, hey, I'm new. I'm gonna do it too. And it involved finding money. I never forget that week. I found $700 in my budget that I was essentially just wasting subscriptions, excessive hair appointments, excessive nail appointments, just all kinds of stuff that honestly I did because I could. It's okay to enjoy things, but you really have to put up boundaries for yourself. And I had not put up any boundaries. I would eat out a lot. But yes, I found $700 that week. And so that was motivating for me. It's like, oh, wow. The next month, I was blessed to have some stock options that I were maturing and that I could exercise. I took that money and wiped out the credit card debt I had. And then that following month, that October, I paid off my car, same car I still drive today. And lo and behold, I had $2,500 in my budget that I could invest, that I could do the right thing with. And it just felt so good. It was the first time in my life that I was debt free, except my home, but debt free, and it was just the most exuberant feeling. It is the most exuberant feeling that I had ever felt. And so that was motivating to learn more. And so, yeah, that's my story. That's how I got to Wealthy You.
First of all, let me say, Leia, I had forgotten about you losing your fiance, and in fact, and so I just want to, I thank you for being so transparent, because let's be real, we've been in this kind of COVID pandemic, And oftentimes, what we don't realize are the personal situation and impact that this pandemic has had on individuals like yourself. And to your point about your parents, what you just described, and I want the audience to get this, is that income middle class mindset that our parents, if you think about like my own parents coming from, a sharecropper, my grandfather was a sharecropper. My parents, as they went up and earned more money, their lifestyles increased. And so your parents, basically, what you just described was that middle class mindset and the roadmap that we were all given for financial success. Yeah. And we're going to give our parents grace, and we're going to give all of ourselves grace, because that's what I believe too. And had I not had this experience in the investment industry and actually saw how you become financially successful and how you build wealth, I would still have that mindset myself. So thank you so much for sharing the origin of those beliefs. And you were simply doing what you watched your parents do. And that really validates the first point I was making. And that is that knowledge of how to build wealth is inherited. Yes. Right. And so when we come back, I really, you already alluded to and shared a lot of the strategies that you use, but I want to go just a little bit deeper. So folks, when we come back, how did she have the presence of mind to now, rather than getting this windfall and spending it, to really taking control of her finances? We're going to go a little deeper into strategy when we come back, right here on Get Wealthy. Thanks, everybody. I'm Deborah Owens. Welcome back. It's Get Wealthy, and we're certainly learning how to get wealthy today. And my guest has been sharing first her mindset and the beliefs that she had that had basically not allowed her to achieve the level of financial success that she had based on the income and the career that she has. So now, Leia, I want to go into strategy. And you talked a little bit about how you attended one of our master classes, and that day you were exposed to other women, camaraderie, and actual strategy, right? So tell our audience, like, after you received this information and saw other women, making transformation, what was the first thing that you did?
The first thing I did was dive into stocks. And I will say, this is something that I had avoided. I had almost told myself that I couldn't understand it, which was another reason why I joined Wealthy You. It's like, bought the books over the years from various authors, had a library full of books, but this was putting things into action, like teaching me what I didn't understand and then helping me practice it and then put it into action. So the first thing I did after finding the $700 was to open a stash account. Still a little nervous about stocks. And at that point, the teaching where I was, the cohort that I was a part of, we were just beginning the stock analysis part of the program. And so I can't say I had a lot of knowledge, but again, I go back to what you always encourage participants to do, is to just dive in. And so I chose three stocks and one type of mutual fund through my stash account that I figured would be safe bets, that I didn't need to have an inordinate amount of knowledge. They're pretty safe bets from a United States standpoint. So I remember choosing Moderna. We were in the pandemic. I chose Walmart, I chose Apple, and then there was a mutual fund offered through Stash that's based on some blue chip companies that offer pretty high dividends. It was called Delicious Dividends. And I'd heard about that from the young lady in Wealthy Youth Society who was teaching about Stash. I learned about that mutual fund. And so that was my initial. But to help me accelerate, because I had turned 50 literally the week I joined Wealthy You, that July of 2020, I put it on automatic. So I set up that automatic investment from a stash standpoint. And I was amazed at how much I didn't miss the money, had it coming out of my discretionary account. And so it was in there with, the hair appointment money and other money that I had allocated for other stuff. And over time, I started increasing the contribution on automatic to those stocks. After gaining some insight about analyzing the stocks, I made some changes to the mix, but not from that core four, but in terms of adding additional, I was beginning to use the knowledge, or try to use the knowledge that I was gaining through Wealthy You. And the other thing I did was to raise my 401k, because before I could join Wealthy, I did some things right. I had 401k, I had it at 10%. I raised it to 15%. And right after I paid off the car and I had that $2,500, so I increased that to 15%. I began increasing the stash account investments, which would just automatically come out of my account. Those were the strategies I put into play. I felt like they were easy for me to implement. And I also, after our initial conversation, January of 2021, I also changed my aggression mindset with my 401k mutual fund. So I made some changes. I was in one of those lifestyle mixes that you always tell us we're automatically put in. And it was performing well, but I kept thinking to myself, well, that's good, but what else could I do? How good could it get if the lifestyle mix is performing pretty well? And so I switched to, I believe it was a mid cap mutual fund for my 401k, and began seeing some additional growth. So that was the strategy. I'm at another point.
I love that. I like I want this show to be about, specifics. Do you know what I mean? Because when people, yourself included, I mean, when you started in Wealthy I remember you having a conversation with you and you just saying, I feel overwhelmed, I'm looking at all these other people. And so what I wanted people to understand, that there are things that you can do right now. Like so many people are getting ready to get ready. And the key to your point is, I say, just lean in, just do it. You never lose, you're going to learn, right? And you can only learn if you take action. And so a couple of before we leave strategy, the only other question I have for you, Leia, is if you were to think about what the strategies were before you, what were the two things that have, now looking back, because it's been a couple of years, right? Mm-hmm. What were the two strategies that had the most impact in where you are right now today?
Okay. The number one strategy is the mindset towards debt. It's working against you. So, I think of debt like a whack-a-mole. So if I'm in a situation where they have to take a card, when I go home to visit my parents in the Bay Area and I'm in a hotel, they, use a card, it's paid off that month. I don't tolerate carrying balances anymore. I don't tolerate being comfortable with the balance there. It's almost like a game of whack-a-mole. If it comes up, I'm hitting it. I'm getting rid of it. And I'd say that's really one of the things I'm proudest of, because of the mindset I had about debt, that I'm carrying on that with some longevity. There's some things that I've tried over the years that I didn't stick with. I'm proud about how I'm sticking to the financial knowledge that I gained from Wealthy You. Very proud of that, proud of myself, in that I'm really doing this. The second one would have to be just diving into stash. It's accessible. You don't have to buy a whole share. You can start investing as low as $5, or, it's not, it's not as intimidating as, I think probably by design we have been thinking it was. It's almost easy. It is easy. And to hold yourself honest, and that's this, that automatic, it's essentially like when you fund a 401k or some savings account. If you set it up on automatic, you don't miss that money. It's less that you're not blowing if you're not being, diligent with a budget. And so you really are serving yourself. And I'll throw a third in there, and I'll never forget this day. I remember during that challenge, this was my point of epiphany. I had joined Wealthy You July of 2020, August 2020, the challenge was going on. And you said something, Miss Deborah, that I'll never forget. And it's what carries me and helps me stay disciplined and you said, and I'm going to paraphrase because I don't know that I can say it as eloquently as you said it, but are you serving other people's goals with your money, or is your money serving your goals? I didn't say it as eloquent, but it was a profound statement for me because it's the day I woke up and realized all the spending I'm doing, I'm serving other people's goals for their business, for sales for them, without a strategy to serve myself, not just now, but wanting to retire in a few years. What am I doing? It was one of those moments like, what have I been doing? And so I've kind of adopted that as my mantra when I look through the lens of things that I want. I just moved back west. I live in Phoenix now. I got a new job. My compensation has doubled, praise God. And I apologize for the boxes behind me. I just moved into the home. But I don't know that I'd have been in the right financial position to be able to even hang in this market. It's just a crazy market in Phoenix right now from a real estate standpoint, and be able to compete and have the financial credibility to be able to do what I've needed to do had I not joined Wealthy You and began to get my house in order, and more importantly, my mind in order in how I approach things. And so I owe a debt of gratitude to you, Miss Deborah, and Wealthy You. Just in the last year and a half, I just am amazed at just the transformation in myself from a financial mindset standpoint. And again, I'm very proud of myself for carrying it forward. But had I not made that decision, which was a great decision to join Wealthy You, I would have just continued on that hamster wheel that I now realize I had been on.
Oh, what you cover so much ground in there. And, so much of, what people need to understand is we're all hearing this transformation from a place of transparency. And I'm so grateful for that, Leia. I had no idea that you had gotten the options, paid off the debt. And you said something really interesting that I don't want people to miss, because it was part of the three things they don't want you to know is that when you go into these institutions, if you don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars, then you're not going to get access in that way. But what you said with the app Stash app, which is an app that everyone can take advantage of, and they can start investing in stocks and mutual funds with as little as $5. So it is accessible. You just have to know how to access it.
Absolutely.
So thank you for that. And when we come back, mindset strategy, she talked about the strategies. We're going to delve a little deeper into how Leia executed, because so often we can get information. You're going to hear a lot of information here on Get Wealthy and still not act. And so when we come back, we're going to talk to Leia a little bit more about her execution strategies and how she stays on track. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Deborah Owens. This is Getting Wealthy, and I hope you have gotten a wealth of knowledge based on the conversation that we're having with Leia today. I am just amazed at how she really continues to talk about how her mindset had to change, her mindset around money, making that shift from that middle class mindset to a wealth mindset. And so she's certainly been sharing that with us. So Leia, you recently, I didn't know about this new opportunity that you had, and you changed jobs, you moved, and you said something really profound just around how changing your this financial transformation has impacted you just in terms of your financial credibility and
Mhm.
being able to make choices.
Yeah.
So I would love for you to share with our audience in terms of your the things that you executed on, right,
Mhm.
that have had that you've used as an execution strategy that have allowed you to have this acceleration in your financial standing.
Yeah, absolutely. I go back to the debt. I took a snapshot of my credit score a few months ago and sent it to a friend, and I'm like, I've just never been in this area, right? I had an 849, right? It's because of not tolerating that debt, and yeah, it was still being used, but it was being paid off that month. Um, that allowed me to get an amazing rate. Mortgage rate when I relocated here to Phoenix. And, um, the housing market is really, I'll just say it's just bananas here, right? I don't think I realize how bananas it is, but, it gave me leverage in ways that, along with being able to stockpile money, um, and having cash reserves to take care of things. Yes, the relocation package helped me a lot. I did very well selling my home in Georgia, um, and was able to use that to be able to play in this market. In that the size of the down payment I could put on a house was pretty substantial. I got a good, mortgage rate. And so when I say it's set, being with Wealthy, you set me up for that. Had I not changed that mindset, I wouldn't have had those attributes necessarily. I'd have had the cash from the sale of the house in Georgia. But in terms of being able to get a good mortgage rate as well as I did with the credit score that I had, because I wasn't carrying those balances anymore. And then the cash reserves I had set up, because I knew I would be moving, knew I would need some cash, knew I would need some cash on hand. This allows me to do things even when I, moved into the house, some immediate things I wanted to do. I didn't have to, get financing or put it on a credit card. I had the cash in my reserves to do it above and beyond what I was able to put down on the house. So it it really stem all of those actions. I mean, is the output of the input of the knowledge of just making those changes in my mindset and how I'm managing my finances. Um, and I'd say that that's one of the dividends I've seen in the last year and a half, is just being in a good position when the market could be tough for buyers, to be able to play like some of the other cultures can, and compete for a house, because it's so crazy out here. You offer above the amount. I wouldn't have been able to do all that, and compete for the house that I wanted and win.
Oh, I love that. Leia, I think you said something very profound, and it's the power that you have when you're in good financial standing.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
you mentioned a word that I love, and that is leverage,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
that really is what your getting your financial house in order has allowed you to do. It's
Hmm.
allowed you to leverage opportunities. And I do want to ask you one question though, Leah, and it's like you just took this new job.
Hmm.
Did your mindset and all of the financial transformation that you've had that also influenced this new opportunity that presented itself?
It had, kind of go back to the vision board with that, because I think I had mentioned last time we talked, I'm not a vision board type of girl. I'm part of organizations, and, beginning of the year, somebody always wants to have a vision board party. I was that woman that would be ducking out because I really wasn't into it. But in the Wealthy Youth Society program, they made it so, you all made it so easy. You could do it online. My vision board was a big part of it was moving back west. My parents are getting older. They're healthy, vibrant, all of that. But it bothered me during the pandemic to not be able to get access to them easily. And, wasn't safe for them to travel. And so not only did I want to move west, but then the pandemic kind of was like, yeah, I need to be closer. So my vision overall was to move west. And I had that front and center on my vision board about wanting to move west, wanting to be closer, hourly flights out of Phoenix into the Bay Area airports. I can get home very easily if I needed to from an emergency standpoint. And, I just go home on a weekend without little planning because the flights are so cheap. That mindset, I'll count the vision board in that mindset because it really was a focus on what I really wanted out of life. And at that time, I had made the decision to move up. I was planning to move back this way, 2023, 2024. I decided to move up that timeline. And it all happened so quickly. I'm a big believer in prayer as well. And clearly my faith is what got me through the grieving process and continues to get me through, the times that I have every once in a while. But the Lord really manifested an amazing opportunity for me, and just paved the way for things to work out, bring into fruition some of that stuff on that vision board.
Well, I love that, Leia, and I guess I should explain to the audience what that vision board is. And one of the exercises that members do is, rather than just having a financial goal, I want to get out of debt, we really focus on, is 10 years from now, what do you want to happen? And then you actually create a visual representation of that, along with the goals that go along with the figures or actual numbers that it's going to take to achieve those goals. Leia, I cannot thank you enough for coming on Get Wealthy today and really sharing how, in spite of all of those years of, and I remember your sharing how you said you had to forgive yourself about all the things that you didn't do, and to see where you are today is just so gratifying. And what I want this audience to understand, that it is because she took action. And that's why in the next segment, I'm going to share with you, we're going to review and look at how you can take exactly what Leia was able to accomplish through the lens of analyzing, optimizing, and maximizing the opportunities in front of you. So when we come back, we're going to take a review of Leia and how she was able to achieve the level of financial success that she has in such a short period of time. So don't go anywhere, folks, because we're going to keep getting wealthy. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you've been enjoying this conversation with Leia Armstrong about how she basically shifted her mindset and was able to put herself in a much better financial condition. And what I want you to know is that you can accomplish that too. And so let's look at what Leia did. First of all, it was to really analyze her situation. I mean, once she got a handle on the fact that she was spending a lot of money, and shared with us that through that challenge, she found $750. And that's when she began to see her financial condition change. And then next, she really optimized that situation. So then next time she got an opportunity, a windfall, she paid off debt. And so that allowed her to really do the next thing, and that was maximize. Now she had much more cash flow, $2,500 in additional discretionary income coming in, and she was able to increase the amount that she had in her 401k, increase the amount that she was investing in her stash app. And what I want you to know is that if Leia can do it, you can do it too. And it all begins with mindset, strategy, execution, and then analyzing the opportunities that are right in front of you. So when we come back, I'm going to talk about the 3 things that you should take away from today's program. Don't go anywhere, folks, because we're going to continue to get wealthy. Welcome back. Finally. So what are our 3 takeaways from the show today on Get Wealthy? The first thing is watch the pennies and the dollars will take care of themselves. That's exactly what Leia was able to do. And here's the other thing. We all have unique investment opportunity levers. And those levers means that it could be your 401k. It could be like Leia, paying off debt is what you need to do so that you can free up some cash. And then finally, here's what I want you to understand. Focus on the right figures. Some of you are so focused on earning more income that many of you could do a lot more with what you already have. That's Get Wealthy for this week. I hope you'll join us next week. I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and I'm host of Get Wealthy, and it's time that you did.